Hey, welcome back to another video. Today we have a PlayStation 4. This is one that I scored on my local marketplace for $40. No controller, no games. It did come with the HDMI and it did come with the power cable. This is the CUH-1215A model. This one was released August 2015. So it's had a little bit of a life. So I think that we're going to see some good results in opening it up, disassembling it, dusting it out, applying new thermal paste, etc. Now, this is one that I actually have not tested yet. So let's go ahead and plug it in and see if it works. Here we are. I'm going to go ahead and just boot it straight into safe mode. So that way I can initialize the system and just reset everything. That's the first thing I do anytime I get a new console. We now have the PlayStation loaded up. We're going to play some Resident Evil. I'm probably going to play it for about 30 minutes to an hour, somewhere around there, and then I'll record the temperature on it, and we can kind of get a good before and after comparison. After it's cleaned and repasted, we can see the actual results on if it's worth it to open it up and clean out your PlayStation. So I'm going to go ahead and play for about 30, 45 minutes or so, and I will get back to you guys with the results. We are back. We've left the console running and played some for about 30, 45 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and see where we're at. And I can tell it's very warm. So let's see. See if we can get to focus. There we go. Come on. $50. We did get it up to 50. I don't know if you guys saw that. I'm having trouble focusing the camera. Now it's starting to climb a little bit over 50. Should be somewhere around there where the APU is. Oh man, it's going back down a little bit. So we'll say it maxed at 50. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to disassemble this and clean it, and we will see the results afterwards. Before we begin this teardown, there is going to be a few tools you will need. You will need a T8 driver and a Phillips driver. I will be using my iFixit kit, so that will cover all of the bits that I need. You will also need 98% or higher isopropyl alcohol. I have mine in a little needle bottle for easy application. You will need Kimtech or other kind of wipes in order to clean the actual APU off without scratching it and without leaving any residue. You will need an air duster to dust out all of the debris and dust, of course. And as well, you will be needing thermal paste. I'll be using MX6 for this application. Any thermal paste will do. Let's go ahead and get started. For the CUH-1215A model, there's two security tampers right here. They're just adhesive stickers. Let's go ahead and remove those. There's one and two. We can put those back at the end. There'll be two T8s on the back. Just remove those. Okay. Once that is removed, we're going to remove the side panel first. There's no screws actually holding this in. This is what's going to expose the hard drive. It just slides right off with a little bit of force. Perfect. Remove that. Set that to the side. Next, we will be removing these two T8s. Same thing. This one's easier if you pop it off from the bottom and work your way over. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and remove that. We can already see the dust build up here. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the hard drive. I'm going to switch to my Phillips tip. And this is the big PlayStation screw. This is the only screw in here. I don't know if you can see, but it has the little triangle, square, X, and circle on it. That's the hard drive screw. We'll set that to the side. The hard drive just slides right out. And there we are. Go ahead and set that to the side. Do not drop it. Okay. Next, we're going to remove this plastic housing. There's 2 T8 screws on it. Next, we will remove the plastic housing right here. There are 2 T8 screws. Go ahead and remove those. We will remove all of the T8 screws that you can see on the surface. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So go ahead and remove those 9. Okay, there's actually 11, so I miscounted. Next, we're going to remove these 3 Phillips at the top. These are the silver ones. Those are the ones that are going to go towards the back of the console, towards the ports. Okay, let's keep those separated. Each of these screws you're going to want to keep separated. We want to make sure we put these back in the exact spot that we pulled them off of. We want everything to go back exactly how it came out. Next, we're going to remove these black Phillips on the side in order to remove the rest of the housing. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's go ahead and remove those. Okay. Once we have that out, there is 2 more Phillips right on the side. These are the silver ones. Let's go ahead and remove those. And that will allow this shield to come loose. Set that to the side. Now, we're going to remove the power button. It's a physical button that presses down. There's a little hook on the top. All you do is you pull that up slightly and you push it back. And that's what will release it. You can see kind of how it sits in there. It is fragile, so be careful. Do not force it out, and you want to make sure you lift that top piece up. Go ahead and set that to the side. Next, let's make sure that we unplug our ribbon cable right here. Okay, ribbon cable is disconnected. Once all of the screws are out, the shield is free to come loose. Go ahead and move that to the side. And then here is the actual APU itself. This is what we're going to be repasting. There's 2 long Phillips in here. That's what holds down the actual heatsink for it. We're going to leave those in right now because we have to do some work on the back of the console. So let's go ahead and flip it over. The back comes off similarly to the front. It is a little bit different. They're not 2 pieces, it's just 1 piece. It is easier if you start at one of the sides. Okay, this one's being a bit of a pain, so I'm going to show you guys a pro tip. Take the back of your tweezers or any other flathead, and you can see right here where it actually separates it. Go ahead and just pry that up, and it should allow it to come loose. Perfect. Same thing with the other side. Perfect. Now it'll slide back. And there we are. And yeah, we can tell already that's a very dusty fan in there. There's a lot of standing dust bunnies in here as well too. We'll get all that cleaned out. Next, you're going to take out 2 Phillips holding in this metal shield on the power supply. These are long screws. They're the only screws in here that are really long because they go all the way through the power supply. One of the screws has a bracket on the other side. Go ahead and remove that. Set that to the side. One of those screws has a bracket on the other side. Yep, there it is. That's what dropped right here. That sits in here at the top here. And that's what will allow the screw to go through. That's why we had to remove that plastic housing. I don't know why Sony designed this like that. The other models are not like that. And this model is the annoying one. Okay, let's go back to our T8. We have 3 more silver T8 screws that we have to remove. Remove those. Perfect. Set those to the side. Now the power supply will need to come out, and you just lift it out. It is kind of stuck in here because there's 2 metal prongs on the back that it like feeds through, and that's what gets its 12-volt power from. So let's go ahead and remove that. Sometimes those can pinch on there pretty good. Same thing, grab backside of your tweezers, just kind of gently pry on the other side as you pull up on the opposite. Perfect. Here's the cable for it. This is the cable for the power supply. Go ahead and just pull that out. There we go. And there is the power supply. It'll probably be pretty dusty as well. We'll dust that out. Now we have a couple things going on here that we will need to disconnect. We'll need to disconnect all of these. Once you disconnect them, it's easier just to leave them where they are, so that way you don't have to fish them around or try to weave them back through here, because we can actually leave the disk drive and most of everything in here. There we go. These 2 just pull straight out. This one has a little plastic tab that you have to lift up on to release it. There we go. It is released, and you can just pull it straight out. And these 2 just come right out. Okay. Now we flip the console back over to these 2 Phillips screws. So this. Bear with me. I'm still discovering good camera angles for all this kind of work. This plastic piece just comes right out. Don't break it. It's got little feet on the back of it that you can see. That's what goes in these 2 holes. Once we are at this step, we're going to disconnect the fan. It's right here. That's the power to the fan. So go ahead and just pull that guy out. And now the board is ready for removal. You start at the bottom, pull it up, and you slide it out. And there it is. This is the actual PlayStation board itself. There's the chip. This is a semi-custom 8-core AMD X86-64 Jaguar APU. It is clocked at 1.6 gigahertz, and this thing is a mini barbecue, as most of them are. We'll go ahead and set that to the side. Let's go ahead and clean off the thermal paste on the actual heatsink. Take your Kimtech, and I like to dry wipe it first to get all of the residue off. Now I take my round add it to and actually polish it. And you can tell that's nasty. It's not too bad though. Most of the time they're very, very dirty. This one's not too bad. Okay. So now we're going to actually remove the heatsink itself out of the console, so that way we can give it a proper cleaning. There's 3 more Phillips screws. Let's go ahead and remove those. There we go. Set those aside. Now, the shield itself should come right out. There we go. A little dusty on there. Move that to the side. And here we are. Nice. Okay. Now we are going to set that to the side. Now we will clean the actual processor itself. So same thing. Let's go ahead and just dry wipe it. Once you break loose most of the hard stuff, I will take it and I'll just dump it out over a trash can. Now that we have most of the dry thermal paste off, we'll go ahead and take our 99% in a new Kimtech, apply it on here, and now we're going to polish the APU. Perfect. Now that that is all cleaned up, we're going to go dust out the housing and the heatsink. I'm going to do this outside and I will take you guys with me. And here's a tip. Whenever you get to the actual fan that you're dusting, make sure you hold it in place while you dust it. Don't just let it free spin while you're blasting air on it. It's very hard on the bearing on it, and you'll actually end up with coil whine, and it'll wear your fan out very, very quickly. Okay, we are back at the workstation. Now at this time, I like to actually wipe off the outside and housings of the unit. Like I mentioned before, I actually sell these. So I want to make sure to whoever buys this, it's a nice, clean, pristine console that won't have any issues. You can use your rubbing alcohol and your Chemtex or even paper towels at this point since it's not electronic. Personally, I just use some cheap alcohol wipes that I bought. They're 75% alcohol, and I just take these and just wipe them down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now it is time for reassembly. So let's go ahead and take our mid shell and let's take our actual cleaned heatsink and you just set it right back down in here. It'll fit perfectly. You put back in the 3 silver Phillips. They're the kind of curved ones. There. Now we need to repaste the actual PlayStation before we stick it back in here. I have never stuck one of these in here without any thermal paste, but I have a feeling it will not last too long. So let's go ahead and apply this thermal paste. I'll show you how I like to do it. So on these bigger chips, I like to do it how you would like an AMD Ryzen CPU. That's how I like to repaste these. With my normal graphics cards, as you guys see, I just do one big blob down the middle. On these, I do not. So let me see if I can show you guys. So I just do an X pattern. Oh, I attempt to do an X pattern. That's all right. It all gets smashed down anyways. Now we're going to take the actual board itself and we're going to stick it right back into the housing. You do not have to worry about this thermal paste dripping. This stuff is very, very thick, and the way it sticks, it's not just going to start dripping down on you. So go ahead and flip the board back over. It goes in from the back, and you set it right back down. Perfect. Now, let's go ahead and grab our plastic spacer, put that in. And let's grab our actual screws that hold the heatsink to the APU. And screw those in. Sorry, I'm trying to find it still. And these ones are screwed in pretty tight, so give it a little force. Perfect. Let's plug back in our fan header so we don't forget. Perfect. Now we're going to flip the console back over, and here we have the connections again. So same as you took them out. Now we want to plug back in all of our connections. There's 4 here, and you put them in just the same way that you took them out. Remember, the middle one has the plastic tab, so you're going to have to lift up, slide the flex in, and then push it back down to secure it. Plug the Bluetooth back in so we can connect the controllers and all that stuff. Now that we have all of our connections back where they're supposed to go, we're going to plug in our power supply. And it's the same thing. You plug it in right to its Molex connection. There we go. Now once that is in, we're going to fold it back over and just slide it right back down. You'll feel it snap in as it hits those metal prongs. Okay, that went in nicely. Now we're going to put the 3 T8s back in, the 3 silver T8s. Now we're going to want to put in our 2 long housing screws. In order to do that, we will need the metal shield that goes on top here. And we are going to need this little retaining clip that the screw actually screws through. So in order to do that, from our viewing distance, we're going to put in the left screw. Now that that's in, what we're going to have to do is we're going to drop in the screw on the right side. You're going to want to lift it up. As you can see where it actually going to go down at. So it'll fit in here just like that. And we're going to take our screw. You have to hold it with your finger. And now we can screw this in the rest of the way. Perfect. Now that side is in. I do not know why Sony designed it this way, but they did. Now we need to put in the actual shield of the device. Before I do that, so I don't forget, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the ribbon cable in the bottom right that we unplugged earlier. Sometimes it falls through. All you do is you just feed it right back through this big gap here. Okay, perfect. As well, we're going to go ahead and put back in our power button. In order to do that, it just slides right back in here. It does hook down at the bottom, so a little hook right here. So just make sure it's flat and just push her in to make sure it clicks. Perfect. Now we take our shield. We put that right where it sits. Good. Now we're going to put back in, we'll put back in the shield on the side right here. It'll be the 2 rounded Phillips. Now we'll go ahead and put in the rest of the Phillips while we have the bit out. So we'll do the 3 silver Phillips up at the top. Now we will put in the 6 black Phillips screws. I know where all these go. I've done enough of them. If you need help or exactly where to put them, you can just simply go back in the video and see where I took them out at. Once all of those are in, we're going to put back in our plastic shield up at the top. There's a little peg and a hole that it sits in. And it just goes right down. And it will be 2 silver T8s. We do not need the Phillips anymore. Now we'll put back in the rest of the silver T8s except for the 2 that go to the housing. Okay. We'll go ahead and put in the hard drive. Just slides right to the back. I lied. We will need the Phillips one last time to put in the hard drive screw. Now, let's go ahead and grab our PlayStation and we'll put it back into the bottom housing just so it sits in there. It'll just hook in down at the bottom where it curves in it. Slide it all the way to the back and drop it down in the back. Nice. With these, they're hooked. So you do the back first. Once you have that lined up, drop it down. We'll put in the two last silver T8s that hold this front plate down. All right, we're back. Sorry about the last few seconds of that last clip. I didn't realize that my mic died, but I think you get the point on what we need to do. So let's go ahead and see if it still turns on. Sometimes after you pull the hard drive out and put it back in, it takes a second for everything to like reinitialize, I assume. But we'll give it just a second. It should turn right back on. There we go. So PlayStation is turning on. So same thing. I'm going to go ahead and load up Resident Evil again and give it probably another 30, 45 minutes or so of gameplay. And I will get back to you guys with the after temps. I'm excited to see these results. I have a feeling that we will see a pretty good result. All right, and here we are back about 30, 45 minutes later. And I can tell you right now, it is already running a lot quieter. Just from playing it, I can tell a difference in the noise immediately. Let's go ahead and see where we are at. 43, 44. So we dropped about 6 degrees or so, depending where you look at it. Now, of course, keep in mind, these temps are sheerly just temps from the outside where the APU would sit. I'm not actually measuring the true temperature of the CPU. I would be interested to do that. If you guys want to see some other videos where I actually tear these down, I take the shields off and we test it directly, we can do a more in-depth comparison. But right now, these are mainly just how-to guides on how you can open up and clean out your loud, dusty PlayStation. This one was actually not too bad. It wasn't very dusty at all. I've opened up some that are very, very gross. This one was not too bad, so I'm kind of glad that it turned out the way it did. All right, I think that will conclude the video. Today I showed you how to disassemble, clean out, dust out, and repaste your PlayStation 4. I showed you the before and the after temps on the housing of doing this to show you that this will work. Most of these are very, very dirty and very, very gross. This one was actually not too bad. I was kind of hoping that this one would be more dirty than it was actually just for the video. Like I said, of course, I flip these and I sell these. If you want to see more content on me flipping computers, game systems, iPads, phones, I do a bunch of stuff. I've been a technician for about 9 years, so I'm very experienced when it comes to like this kind of stuff. If you have any other questions or you guys ever need any help, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what other videos and other content you would like to see. I'm sure we have a lot more exciting stuff to go through. But all in all, I think that will conclude it. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe down at the bottom. See you guys next time.